These days that we're living in right now and the days that we're going into are perfect to reflect and see what parts of your life you're living up, right? What parts of you are you bringing in? And this can come in the form of a reinvention, right? When you realize that as humans that we can really reinvent at any point, and that can be quite an extreme process where you're changing lots about yourself. You start seeing yourself as someone completely different to the person that you've lived so far. And that's exciting and that's possible. And it's good for us to remember that we can do such a grand thing like that, right? Of really changing who we are and the life that we live and bringing a completely different path for ourselves. There's also another side of it that is just this leveling up process, right? We're in this perfect time at the moment to start leveling up. And it's not just that we're in the end of the year and approaching a new year like the years before, the whole New Year's resolutions and these sorts of things. This year's different. This year we've got a lot of things supporting us to really start becoming our true purpose and start doing the things that we feel we're here to do and start reconnecting with that, right? And as I said, this could be a reinvention. You could be changing a lot of things about your life, your habits, your daily routines, and your mindset and your ways of seeing the world and these sorts of things that are really going to start shaping your future, your near future and your far future, and put you onto this new path. There's another side of it, as I said, about the leveling up, right? And this can be just you taking things to the next level. And what I find interesting is as humans, we can plateau in many ways, right? We can be on a certain path or we can achieve certain things and become quite good at certain things or gain quite a lot of knowledge in a certain field. Yet we kind of settle for that. There can become a point where we settle for that and we plateau. It becomes our norm. And we don't remain the student of life. Now, I sort of see this, I see the world this way, right? I do see that we're students here on Mother Earth and we're here to learn certain lessons. We're all on our own journey, here to learn different things and overcome different things. And in many ways, it's that hero's journey, right, that we hear so often. And part of the time that we're living in right now, or at least I'm feeling myself, is about reconnecting with that, right? What areas of my life am I plateauing in? Right, and it can be certain skills and knowledges and things like this that we kind of just accept that we're at that stage now, or we've been there for many years and we take it for granted, right? So remaining the student of life is important, right? It's humbling for a start. There's always levels to everything. So any field, there's levels to it, right? And sure, we can become quite comfortable with the level that we're at in certain fields. Yet that doesn't mean that we aren't still the student. And there's another level to achieve, right? So even outside of just reinventing yourself and developing new skills and new mindsets and new habits, maybe you're at a point where it's just this leveling up process. So stay in that mind of being the student of life and look at your things that you spend your time doing, or maybe the things that you used to spend a lot of time doing that you've kind of got used to your level and you've plateaued and you're just accepting that that is what it is. And maybe you're quite good at it. I encourage you to look at how you can now take it to the next level, right? Remain the student of life. Remain the student within your craft. And rather than just accepting that, yeah, I'm quite good at this thing, go to the next level. Go back to basics. And a lot of this can help you connect with your younger self, right? The things that maybe you were really passionate about when you was a child and you put a lot of time into, or maybe at an earlier stage in your life, you put a lot of time into a certain field and you gained a lot of growth and knowledge in that field, and these days you don't really do it so much, but really deep down that passion and purpose is still there within you, right? In the first place, for it to be there in the first place, for your younger self to dive into it that much, right? This might be creative things, writing, music, arts, anything, literally anything, right? Have you plateaued? Have you just become comfortable with the stage that you're at within that certain field? And are you now accepting that that's the level you're at without recognizing that if you remain the student of life and humble yourself, there's levels to this stuff, and that you can really start diving back into that and become the student of life and study that craft again, dive back into it, go back to basics. What I find fascinating, right, in life, there's so many things to fill your time with in a positive way, right, that fulfill you in a positive way. And there's so many interests. We all have these interests in these things that spark something within us, and so many of us don't follow them, and that's a real shame. I sort of feel the opposite of that and feel like there's so many things that fascinate me and interest me, especially within creativity, that sometimes I feel like there's not enough hours in the day, or there's not enough time, which is a wound in itself in many ways for me to accept. I've been on that journey of being ruled by time and everything else over the years, but that's a bit of a side note. there's so many things that fascinate me and that I have an interest in, that it can feel like, wow, how am I going to get round to all this sort of stuff and diving into all this sort of stuff? And the truth of it is I find comfort in that maybe later on in my life, these chapters that we go through in life, there's other times to dive into other things. Or you can do it now, like Leonardo da Vinci. One of my videos, I was speaking to my brother a couple of months ago, and he was saying about, you really can spend a few years on one thing, jump onto the other thing, and master all these different things, or at least gain a lot of knowledge within these different fields. It doesn't mean you have to just do one. But recently I was faced with that feeling again of like, right, what do I do right now? There's many things that interest me that I want to go off and study and learn and enjoy. As I said, a lot of them are creative things. There's also another side of me though that's like, right, music has been a big part of my life, a big part of my interests and my fascination, and the thing that fuels me really positively. I feel like I've got some sort of purpose in there, or passion at least, that I love writing music, making music. If I go back to my younger self, the years of just being like 9 years old to 12 years old for me, I spent just playing guitar. I'd sit on my bed and I'd play and I'd play and I'd play. And then as I progressed through my teens, I started getting into production and everything else. And in many ways, my guitar sort of plateaued. And it's been interesting recently having this feeling of wanting to go and explore all these other passions in life and interests in life, right, that I'm yet to explore. I was also reminded that guitar, I can in many ways take guitar for granted. I'm okay at it, I'm quite good, I've played majority of my life, but as I said, there's levels to this stuff. And if I took that as a craft of mine, of a skill set of mine, it's endless. It really is endless. These things are endless. So to remain the student of life and go back to the very basics and make sure that you're leveling up in the things that mean a lot to you, right? Rather than plateauing, rather than just feeling like accepting the level that you're at, remaining the student of life, humbling yourself and recognizing there's so much growth to have in all these different areas of your life and what ones you're going to choose. And these are great days to be doing this right now. The time that we're in right now, just generally doing the things that bring you joy, bring you fulfillment, and that feel like they're a purpose, and that start sculpting this future life that you're bringing in for yourself. I think a big part of that is leveling up in these different areas that we have passion and purpose in, right? And it's not to say we're trying to be the best. It's not to say that we're trying to master anything. As I said, life's not, it doesn't have to be about perfection and everything else, but what do you spend your time doing? You have that choice daily, right, to decide what you put your time into. And this can be a reinvention, this can be leveling up, this can be starting new skills, new mindsets and everything else, or it can be as simple as, what areas of my life have I had a lot of growth in, and now it's time to take it to the next level. That's what I'm trying to say here. Go back to basics. The example of the guitar, right? You could play guitar for many, many years and be okay at it, be quite good. Yeah, humbling yourself and taking yourself right back to basics, where you're sitting, learning new patterns, new skills that you have to play really slowly because your ability doesn't allow you to do it yet, and going over that process of then speeding it up so you can play it and building the skill set, right? Taking that skill set that you currently have to the next level. I think is a big part of this leveling up process that we're all going through, and a part of bringing in this new life. For some of you, it might be that you're leaving old things behind, of course, and that's more of the reinvention and everything else, right? You're leveling up in a different way. But for those of you that maybe feel a bit stagnant and with life that you've plateaued in many ways, go back to basics. Enjoy, fall in love with that process of going back to maybe where you were years ago, but learning things in a whole different way, right? You're not going backwards, you're learning new skill sets, right? And learning new things that your ability doesn't currently allow you to do, and remain the student of whatever your craft and purpose is. And also knowing that all these other interests and fascinations and things that interest you, that maybe you've got a passion in, knowing that you can do them as well, right? You really are the decider of how your life unravels. And this can be an uncomfortable feeling at sometimes, because it puts the power in our own hands, but this is a good thing, right? We're all powerful beings, and we really do decide what we do with our time and how we're going to level up, and these days right now are supporting this massively. So for someone like myself that's interested in all these different areas of life and sometimes feels like there's not enough time to dive into them all, it's also a good reminder of thinking, am I just moving on to the next thing though? Like what other things have I been doing pretty much my whole life that I can be taking to this next level and practice and learn and study? And I'm feeling this a lot recently. There's other topics and areas of my life that I've grown up around, and I've never really took the initiative to actually dive into them in my own time, right? And now feels the time to do that. It's happening naturally. I'm going back to the basics on guitar, falling in love with practicing guitar, learning guitar, For the first time, I've had this feeling since maybe the age of 12, right before I moved on to production and writing songs and different things. Actually just sitting in front of the metronome and playing guitar, learning new skills and as I said, playing them really slowly. And then there's other areas of my life that I'm recognizing, wow, I've been surrounded by this topic or this knowledge throughout my whole life, yet why have I not dived into it? If that interest is there, if that's a part of me, now feels the time, right? And this can be how we can quickly start shifting things and changing our days to what you do in your spare time. When you've got a spare half hour, you know, to highlight these things, in my opinion, stop you from doom scrolling and doing things that aren't really leading you anywhere, right? Time is a precious thing, and we've got it. So make the most of it. Use it to level up. Use it to humble yourself and see where you can be better in yourself, right? And work on the things that bring you fulfillment, bring you joy, and take them to the next level. Keep studying, keep learning, keep remaining the student of life. Learn all these lessons, and as we go through life, we learn these things to overcome and everything else, and I think there's a big part of it. But within that, we've got these interests and these passions and a purpose. And it's a healthy place to be on the path of mastering it, even if you never master it, right? That's that perfection, everything else. But to just keep leveling up in these different areas of your life that you have interest in, that keep you the student of life. And I think it's a positive place to be. And as I said, the days we're living right now are supporting this massively, not only bringing in this new world for ourselves and this new life that we want to live. It's a perfect opportunity to do that. So then you can look at your life and look at the things that you've done and think, how can I be leveling up? How can I be putting my time so that I'm bettering all my different skill sets and bringing in new ones, right? And that's an exciting place to be. That's an exciting time to be in, right? When that's being supported. So don't let these days pass without reflecting on this, because those that lack purpose or wondering what to do with their time, it's endless. It's just about finding where your passion and purpose is and pursuing it, and knowing that you're worthy of pursuing it. And leveling up these areas of your life is pure joy, you know? And humbling yourself, going back to basics, and starting from scratch in many ways, it can feel, but you're not. You're just going to the next level. And sometimes that takes that slowing down, that reflection, to pick things back up that maybe you've plateaued on, or that now lay dormant in you, that once sparked huge purpose and passion and interest. That still lies there deep within you. Maybe you've just got used to it and accepted parts of yourself that maybe you can't get to that next level, or you've just become comfortable in the level that you're at without recognizing that it's on you to take that to the next level and dive into it, and really enjoy mastering these things that bring you joy and putting your time into these things that bring you joy and fulfillment. And these little change of habits, right? Making these change of habits, as I said, if you get a half hour, how do you spend it? Are you just scrolling, looking at things that maybe aren't going to do much for you, or are you actively pursuing things that you know are bettering you? Is a big part of this reinvention or leveling up or bringing in this new life, right? As I said, we get comfortable with our days and who we are, and we don't necessarily take the opportunities to remain in love with a certain craft or a certain skill set or a certain field that really sparks us. So keep that fire alive, you know, and grab every moment that you can, that you want to build upon that skill. And this is part of the reinvention. This is part of the leveling up. This is part of bringing in the new you, right? So that's what I encourage right now. And I feel these days are supporting it anyway. And I've definitely felt it in my own week, in my own life, of like what you go off and do when you've got a little bit of extra time. It's good to shine a light on, because these little change of habits in your day can really catapult you to something new, right? And these little small shifts can really help you start building this new life, because you're making these subtle changes and remaining the student of life, of knowing that it's on you to keep learning, you know, to keep leveling up. And then this carries out in other areas of your life, you know, study, learn, play, within all the things that bring you joy. And watch your vibration change, watch your sense of purpose change, watch your sense of fulfillment change. And remain the student of life. Take care.